Hey guys and occasional girls, my name is GrrrVahrrr and this is Crysis 3. As some of you might know, I quite liked Crysis 2, not because of its mechanics, but because of its character development. Alcatraz was relatable and sympathetic. His sacrifice in the end was kinda heroic, so I was really looking forward to play Crysis 3 to find out what happens to this entity called Prophet and how its personality develops even further. But now, having finished Crysis 3, that took me 6 hours by the way, I'm coming to the conclusion that the best parts of Crysis 2 were just an incredibly lucky coincidence. And as we all know, a bullet doesn't hit the same place twice.
First of all, the game feels rushed in every aspect. Being only 6 hours long, it just throws stuff in your face, and before you're able to properly digest the previous chunk of the story, more and more information gets shoved down your throat. As a result, the whole story becomes a tasteless, gooey mess. From the intro, we find out that several years passed after the events of Crysis 2, and all the world's energy has been monopolized by Cell Corporation, that now enslaves the entire human race through high electricity bills. All the ex-nanosuit soldiers were, I quote, skinned, and the only guy who has a suit now is Prophet, who is rescued by his former comrades to fight Cell. The game is essentially divided into two parts. In the first part you battle Cell and destroy their main power facility that results in the awakening of the Alpha Ceph, which Cell used to drain infinite power from. And in the second part you battle Ceph that magically appear from every goddamn hole, killing the Alpha Ceph in the end.
This one's for Raptor Team, you son of a bitch.
Just as before, the core plot of the game is pretty straightforward and generic. Giant evil corporations, big bad aliens, super weapon satellites. You fight them, you kill them, you win. However, again, just as before, smaller parts of the story are much more interesting than the epic events that go on around them. What immediately struck me is the fact that Alcatraz is never even mentioned. In the intro, Prophet says that he sacrificed some guy named Lawrence, who I've never heard of, since I've never played Crysis 1. And let's be clear here, as I saw the whole situation, Lawrence Barnes shot himself in the beginning of the second game, and the best part of his personality was encoded into the suit, the part that's only dedication and motive is to protect the humanity from Ceph. Alcatraz in the end of Crysis 2 sacrifices himself to become Prophet, an entity that represents those high ideals. But as it turns out, when in the end of Crysis 2 Prophet asked Alcatraz to join him in the fight with Ceph, it was just Lawrence looking for a new body for his consciousness. What the fucking asshole! And he's the protagonist, the protector of humanity who uses people, lies to their faces, kills them, and takes their bodies as spare parts. It is freaking horrific! I sacrificed Lawrence Barnes my ass, you fucking freak! You can hardly call Prophet a protagonist at all. He's more of a cameraman with a gun that follows the real protagonist of this game, Psycho.
Once we get inside, we'll RV with my people. You have people now. You know me. I've always been a team player. I'm not going anywhere until you give me some answers. Yeah, I remember.
First of all, his voice and accent are like ambrosia for my ears. He's incredibly pleasant to listen to. It is like he came straight from a Guy Ritchie movie, so someone please give this actor a role where he fights Jason Statham in the old London town.
Listen, while you were off hunting some super alien that didn't even exist, Cell were busy taking over the world. We need you back in the here and now, boss. We need you to help us stop Cell.
Second of all, Psycho's story is great. I really would rather play as that guy. After being tortured and skinned off his suit by Cell, he's left powerless to fight his battles, dreaming about his former abilities, prepared to sacrifice all to get them back, without having an actual opportunity to do so.
Listen, there's not a single day goes by where I don't wish I was you. Even with all that God knows what hardware, wetware, Ceph mutation bullshit going on under that skin of yours, I take it.
He is saved from the Cell Corp imprisonment by a woman that fell in love with him, but during the game he finds out that it was she who tortured him. Despite this betrayal, he tries to save her but fails. That leaves his loved one to die in his own hands. While Prophet stands nearby and goes, sacrifices are important. Why the fuck am I even playing as this glorified rubbish bin with super abilities, while a much more interesting and relatable human being is standing right next to him?
Psycho, I'm sorry, but we don't have much time. We need to find another VTOL now. Psycho,
Don't you fucking call me that!
we have to shut that energy beam down, Psycho, or everyone is going to die. Do you understand me?
And what the fuck am I supposed to do about it, eh? I'm Michael Sykes. I'm just a human, Prophet. I couldn't even save one fucking life, not one!
You selfish son of a bitch! Don't you get it yet? Rash had me pinned back there, kept me locked down because of this damn suit. If you'd been wearing a suit, we'd all be dead. You being human is what saved us.
Even in the very end, when Lawrence stares into the sunset talking to himself about how great he is, the only thought I had, go die in a dumpster for killing Alcatraz, you piece of shit! Well, when Psycho gets his revenge upon the Cell CEOs, it's a real fuck yeah moment!
I was a guest at one of your hospitals a little while ago. And I'd like to make a complaint.
The attempts to somehow include Prophet into the story in a way that doesn't involve shooting something are just pathetic and feel incredibly artificial. Am I still a human is the only dilemma Prophet faces, so to make it seem like a struggle, Claire is introduced to hate him for no reason at all. Just because someone has to tell him that he's a machine so he would prove this person wrong.
My CO from...
Look at the modifications, Michael! Is it Seth? Cell? Is it even human? Have we been sacrificing good people for that mutation?
Look.
This is not just a suit, Michael.
Claire's hatred for Prophet is so out of place and illogical it destroys this whole am I human arc, making it look like he's struggling with dumb people and not the notion itself. When Prophet shows up, the resistance is obviously in the shitter, so he's their only option to succeed. However, Claire, being a commander, wants to refuse his help just cause, despite seeing her man die. Secondly, as we find out, she's a scientist. A freaking scientist that researched suits herself in the facility where she met and experimented on Psycho. And she loves Psycho for the Christ's sake, a man who wore a suit, meaning that she definitely knows that there are people inside suits. She even fucks one. Her hatred for Prophet was pulled out of some intergalactic ass and even contradicts her very character. It should not be in the game.
You lying
Psycho,
fuck!
listen to me. You know how it works. You know she didn't have a choice. She did what she had to do.
Prophet's struggle against the Ceph hive mind is a bit more interesting. Yet again, it finishes on the course of one cutscene, so it pretty much goes unnoticed.
No! No, I'm okay. I'm alright, I'm alright.
The story of Crysis 3 turned out to be very disappointing for me. Perhaps because I was expecting so much more since the story of Crysis 2 had some interesting aspects. And yes, I do realize that the whole franchise is built around nanosuits, so the devs couldn't just make Psycho the main character. But what they could have done is make Prophet interesting. Lawrence Barnes should have died the moment he painted a wall with his own brain. The story of Prophet should have continued with Alcatraz sacrificing himself. But with the magical resurrection of Lawrence, what we have is a massive step backwards, resulting in a bland, uninteresting character I personally despise.
Before talking about the gameplay, I just have to admit, the game looks beautiful even compared to Crysis 2, which even on itself is a fine looking game. And it runs pretty good as well. On my system with everything set on very high while frapsing, I didn't experience any significant problems and I got only one 680. To be honest, it appears that more money went into the engine than anything else. With that out of the way, compared to Crysis 2, the gameplay sustained only mild changes. The biggest one is the bow, which was in every piece of marketing material for that game. As a result, the bow is OP as heck. Only sheer boredom can make you use anything else. It one-shots every enemy, has different arrow tips that two-shot most big enemies, allows ammo recovery, and you can fire it without decloaking. Having such a weapon makes every other weapon essentially useless, except the alien weapons of course, that you rarely find and have only one magazine per gun.
A bow? Yeah. Makes you an invisible, silent killing machine. Serious kit, this. You like it? No.
Interestingly enough, the problem with the OP bow could have been easily solved if the ammunition for it wasn't waiting for you every 200 meters, which is kinda stupid considering you are the only one who uses a bow, none of the enemies do. If you were given a set of arrows once per chapter, it would result in a much more intelligent play and resource management, as it is, it's just boring. Another addition to the gameplay is a hacking minigame taken straight from Bioshock 2. I'm dead serious, it is absolutely the same minigame with a bit of a sci-fi look. And it has even the same combat application, hacking enemy turrets to assist you for example. The only thing that excuses it is being mostly optional. Upgrade system became a total piece of crap. Now you have to find upgrade kits instead of killing enemies for XP. But the thing is, when I bought all 4 stealth skills I wanted, I didn't need anything else. By the end of the game I had about 10 unspent upgrade points I didn't use. Stealth is still the most effective way to play the game in my opinion, and it doesn't get dull since the game is so short, so that leaves you with no reasons to change your playstyle to anything else. Besides, on higher difficulties, if you are not stealthy, you melt like butter under all the hot lead. On the other hand, stealth became much less OP than in the previous game. Even with every stealth skill upgraded to the max, you can't stay cloaked for long, which is a real challenge since the level design also improved. Levels became bigger, having more open areas with carefully laid out abstractions that you will have to use if you want to sneak effectively. Unfortunately, the game still doesn't give you a good reason to kill enemies and not just cloak past them. So I still only engaged in fights when enemies managed to find me. That, to be honest, happened much more often than in Crysis 2. Enemy AI also improved. The way they try to hunt you down when you get noticed is kinda cool and intense. Seeing enemy forces surround your position, throwing EMPs where they last saw you created a couple of rather desperate moments that resulted one in a firefight and the other in a great sense of smug accomplishment when I managed to trick the enemy and escape watching them scout an empty space. 2 moments during a 6-hour playthrough. Thanks, Crytek.
Overall, Crysis 3 is a pretty mediocre game that leaves you only with 6 hours of wasted time. However, with all new EA games, there is also always one question that needs to be answered when making a purchasing decision. Is the game worth wrestling with Origin? And in this case, it obviously isn't. Yes, Origin is not as bad as games for Windows Live, for instance, but it is still a pretty inconvenient piece of garbage with tech support you can't even get mad at, since it is just some contracted Indian guy that, funnily enough, EA recently raised prices for. EA, do you even realize how uncomfortable words I'm ready to receive all the complaints you have? Sound from your outsourced tech support. I feel like I'm about to spank an over-submissive schoolboy, which is disgusting. And yeah, Crysis 3, you will gain nothing from playing this game, so I'd rather save money for a better game on a better distribution system. Wink wink. The name's GrrrVahrrr, and I shall see you from within my next video.
Goodbye, goodbye, see you again. Goodbye, goodbye, see you, my friends. Goodbye, goodbye, I had fun today.